Hi. Hello, friends. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Hi, Kim. If you can hear me, somebody give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Hi, Michelle. Hey, guys. It's right on the dot at 2 o'clock. I am welcoming you all as Emily Hawbaker. I'm the curriculum director for NEED. I am going to give everybody a few minutes to get online and get in the chat here before we get started. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to gather some materials here in a second too. I'm going to show off some of the things that you might need. We're going to do our best to save this video and make sure that we go ahead and link them up for you in our post later so that you can see and use this in the future. I'm also probably going to share some other links to some fun reinforcements to this activity going forward. I think I have Kim Swan in the group with us today, and she's going to be monitoring the discussion to see if any of you have questions and things about the activities. Look out for Kimberly Swan. She's going to be kind of posting along and double checking to make sure that if you have any questions, that she can answer them. And her information should be pinned to the bottom of the post here. So hi again to all of the folks who are joining. I see we have about 15 or 20 folks in so far. For those of you who just joined, my name is Emily Hawbaker. I am from the NEED Project, and we are doing 2 labs a week live on Instagram, so thanks for joining us. Today's lab is going to be focused on biofuels and biomass, and we're going to talk about what that looks like and what that means here in a second. Before I do that, bear with me. I'm going to flip the screen for a second and show you some of the materials that you are going to need. So we've got 2 parts to our activity today. The first thing you're going to need is some Ziploc baggies, preferably ones that seal. Sandwich sized is probably better for part 1. You're going to need some once living items. So this is from a park right by my house. Some grass. I have some clippings in here. There's some leftover lettuce from my salad somewhere at the bottom. And I think there's some flowers that had fallen off the tree in there as well. You can see them. So we're going to use some once living things. You're going to need yeast. And if you're like me and just went to the grocery store for yeast, good luck finding it. But maybe you have some in your fridge somewhere, or you have a packet in the cabinet. It's a hot ticket item these days because there's lots you can do with it while you're stuck at home. I have some sugar here, and this is some, I guess, less refined cane sugar. It's not super white. It's the organic sugar, but it does not matter if your sugar is organic or not for this activity. I have a cup of water, not a real big amount needed today. And then I have a tablespoon and a teaspoon, as well as a ruler, which is going to come in handy as you're gathering observations as you go. I don't think that I listed that on the list that you might have seen earlier about this activity. So that's going to be part 1. If you haven't gotten a chance to gather all of those things, you can go ahead and grab anything you missed, and we'll get started here in a second. Part 2 is pretty simple. Sorry if I'm making anybody sick by scrolling along here. Part 2, you're also going to need some Ziploc baggies. I have snack-sized ones for this, but any size will do. I have some garbage bags, and I have some coins, pennies and dimes here, and then I have some various trash items. So all of these things have something to do with biomass, which we're going to be seeing and learning more about as we go today. I don't know if you caught my really fancy camera stand there. So we're going to be looking at biomass. One of the things Mary, good eye back there. One of the things Mary, one of the commenters, pointed out is both of these activities are NEED activities, and they also can be found in this awesome resource here called Energy Lab for Kids. And Energy Lab for Kids is a great resource if you are a parent or a student and you're stuck at home and you're looking for things to do with your time that are kind of fun. A lot of these are more like kitchen science activities. They all use things that you should be able to pretty easily find in a junk drawer or in a box somewhere. And a few of them might require like taking apart that old set of Christmas lights that was kind of broken anyway, or something like that. But Energy Lab for Kids, you can find it anywhere you find books. I know sometimes they have it at like Office Depot and Staples. You can often find this at museum gift shops, and more importantly on Amazon, but also at shop.need.org. You can find this book on our website at Need and purchase if you'd like. And if you run into us anytime soon, I'll go ahead and sign it for you if you're at a Need event in the upcoming future. But this is a great lab book. It's got 40 hands-on activities to do at home. So if you think you're gonna be home for another month, this might keep you busy. So look for that, shop.need.org or Amazon, wherever you might find a published book. Both of these activities come from this book as well. So I think we've got everybody in. Hopefully you all have your materials, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So part 1 of this activity and part 2 deal with biomass. Anybody in the comments wanna chime in? What do you think biomass might relate to? If I say bio, the prefix bio means something specific. Have any guesses in the comments? When we're studying biology, biology is the study of life. So today we're looking at biomass. So we're going to be dealing with once living stuff, a mass of once living stuff. So today, all of the things we're going to do are quick to set up, but may take you some time. So they might take the period of a day. They could take a period of a week. They could take 2 weeks if you like. They could take longer, depending on your setup. Wendy, I see you with that correct answer in there. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate it. So the theme today, as I said, is biomass. So we're going to be talking about energy that we get from organic matter that we can then use as fuel. Organic matter simply means something that is living or came from something once living. So all of these things that we're talking about today either came from a living organism, a plant, an animal, or were produced by a plant or an animal, like garbage is produced by us. And they're things that we are going to burn or process chemically to get the energy out. And so examples of things that we use in nature around us that were once organic or came from something living could include anything from wood. Wood was one of our first energy sources that we ever used, thinking back to primitive people. Crops, we can burn our crops, our leaves. Sometimes in the fall, people will burn leaves to generate heat to do things after they've raked their yard. Lawn waste. And then also we can generate energy from garbage. In a landfill, for example, as the trash is able to build up over time and decay, it is able to be used either by burning it to generate electricity, or we can capture the gas that comes off of our decaying matter and burn that to make energy. And the best one, I think everybody's favorite version of biomass, is poo. You can actually use poo to power things. In the case of farms and agriculture, a lot of times they will use the manure field or the manure piles to help generate electricity by capturing the gas that comes off the already decaying organic matter, if you know what we're saying. And in rural areas and sometimes developing countries, they will use what we call basically a poo pond that they've called a biodigester is the fancy word for this. And they seal it up and you can add organic matter to it. And over time it will let off gas that you can capture to generate energy, to cook with, to generate electricity with, and it can be really cheap and really affordable for places who might not have access to a utility grid like you might living in your city or town. And I see that people are with us now. I see lots of comments, poo and poo pond. Those are things, they may not be the most technical terms, but they are the terms we're gonna use today. So without much more delay, let's go ahead and do part 1. So in part 1, of this activity, we're going to actually showcase a little bit of the process of what happens when an organic matter starts to decay. And so we're going to use energy from biomass. In this case, we're going to use two different things. And we're going to actually create our own biofuel. And so a biofuel is a fuel that we create from a once living item. Almost all of you in your family vehicles probably have some biofuel in your car. You may have heard of the term ethanol before. Ethanol is a fuel that many of our vehicles, personal vehicles, even NASCAR racing vehicles will use to power their engines. And basically, it's done by taking plant matter that we allow to decay and ferment, which is a chemical process, and we allow that fermentation, and fermentation is a process where sugar gets eaten and turned into alcohol, which is a byproduct, a fancy word there. So in the case of the fuel that we use in our vehicles, ethanol, a lot of times it's made from the plant waste of corn, sometimes sugar or sugar cane, but you can make your own ethanol using backyard materials or kitchen materials like sugar. So, and this might be the sugar you're familiar with, but all of these materials contain some sugar in their cellulose, in their plant cells. And so that is what we're after, and that is what's going to be kind of fermented and sort of digested in this process. So what we're going to need is we're going to first do the plant-based version. And so what I suggest is that everybody, if you do have a permanent marker handy, it's helpful to maybe label your bag. So I'm going to label my bag with what's inside it, what I'm going to put inside it, so that I remember what was in here, because it might end up looking somewhat different in the future. So this today is grass clippings, flowers, a little lettuce that I didn't like. It was like not your normal lettuce. It was like a frisee. Eat your lettuce though. Don't put it all in the bag. And some leaves from a tree outside. And I'm also going to write the date on it, because that's the date that we started the activity. This one may take a little bit of time to go through the full fermentation process. So we want to put the date on it so we remember how long ago, because time is moving pretty slowly when you're stuck at home. We're going to try and remember what day we started this and use that to measure how the fermentation process is happening and how long it's taking. So today, I believe, is the 7th. So I'm going to write 4/7 on here. And what we're going to need to do to closely mimic how the biofuel industry would make this stuff is we're going to try and need to rip this up into tiny small pieces. If you have like a hammer, or if you have something that you can break this stuff down with even smaller, go for it. I'm going to do this kind of loose, and it's not going to be the best broken down, but what you can also do is put it in your bag and sort of beat up the bag once you get all of the stuff in there. And if you don't have it all in there, you want to make sure that you get it about a third of the way full. It could be a little more full than that. That is totally fine. So what I'm going to do, push this aside here, and I'm going to kind of break it up a lot. Want to try and do this if you're doing it inside the bag. You want to try and do it so that you don't rip the bag apart. So want to break these pieces down as much as possible until the grass starts to get like the goo that comes out of the grass. You might have green hands, like you might get grass stain on your pants. If you're playing around outside, you might get green on your hands from doing this. But you want to kind of break down all of the materials. And I am doing that to the best of my ability here. So there's maybe a stick in there. Do your best. Get as much of it beat up as you can. And you can repeat this process. So you can do this a couple times if you like. If you're somebody who has lucky enough to have a jar of yeast at home, do a couple bags. Okay? So we're going to take that bag with the broken up pieces in it, and we're going to add a tablespoon of water. So if you don't have a tablespoon and you do have a teaspoon, 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. Okay? If you don't have a teaspoon later, you can use that same math, 3 to 1, to help figure out how much of this tablespoon you'd use. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of water in my bag, because if any kind of fermentation is going to happen, you need a moist environment. And that means you need to have your stuff a little damp, okay? And then I'm going to take my teaspoon, this is the smaller scoop, and I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of yeast in here. Okay, and this is the same stuff you'd bake some bread with. So if mom has some, see if she can spare, mom or grandma or whomever. And what we're gonna try and do is squeeze as much of the air out of this bag as we can, all right? So you might not be able to squeeze it all out, but you wanna try to squeeze as much as you can out. And then this bag, you can kind of mix it up a little bit if you like. And then you're gonna need to take this one and you're gonna need to put it in a warm place. So probably on a windowsill is a good spot, especially if it's a sunny spot. And what we're gonna watch is what happens to this material over time. Because in order to make that biofuel, that fermentation process has to happen. And we have to get that fuel that we can burn out. And so we can burn this item, the grass and the plants and things, and get energy out just fine. But if we allow the fermentation process to come from here, we might be able to create a higher energy fuel product. And so that's our goal here. We're gonna try and make some ethanol. Now, this one's gonna take a while, like I said, so let's do a version that you'll be able to see something in the matter of the next hour. So, like I said, we're after some sugar when we're creating fermentation. And so this is our little mini fermenter. And when fermentation happens, basically what happens is the yeast is gonna eat the sugar that's in this bag. It's gonna find the sugar within these plant cells. And the more broken down your cells are, the faster it's going to find the sugar, right? It's gonna break down and eat up the sugar cells within this plant matter. And what's gonna be left behind is our ethanol. But it's also going to do a little bit of something where it puts off a gas. And you're gonna be able to see that happening because your bag is hopefully going to expand. So you'll see that over time. If you wanna see that more quickly, let's go straight to the source and just get some sugar. So this is where I'm gonna use my table sugar, my organic sugar that I have, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put a tablespoon of sugar, and this is about a tablespoon in this container. So I'm just gonna dump it all in there, like on the cooking shows, right? And then you're also going to take a tablespoon of water. Again, just like you did last time. And like I said, if you don't have a tablespoon, you can use 3 teaspoons, okay? So we've got our sugar water in here. Throwback if you want to go see a movie about sugar water. Aliens eat the sugar water in Men in Black. So you could be creating food for aliens while you're at it, okay? We're gonna add my teaspoon of yeast. And again, we're gonna try and do a little bit of mixing action in here, but we're also then going to try and squeeze as much air out of this bag as we can. And that does not look appetizing, so whatever aliens are gonna eat this, I hope they enjoy. So we squeeze some air out of this and we're gonna watch it over time. And this is not necessarily a warm, sunny spot right here, but we're hopefully gonna be able to see what happens to this bag over time. And that's where the ruler is gonna come in handy as maybe sort of a basic measurement tool. If you're fancy and you're in a science lab, you can actually do an alcohol test to find out how much alcohol is in this as it's fermenting, because it's gonna put off the gas that you're gonna see. It's gonna have carbon dioxide filling the bag, but it's also going to turn into an alcohol, what's left behind. And so you could do a test like they might do at the hospital to test for how much alcohol is in here. We don't have that tool, so we're just gonna kind of measure how big the bag gets over time by putting the ruler up against it and looking at the growth vertically of the bag as the bag is laying down sideways. So as you can see, I'm just gonna lay this here, and then over time, I'm gonna watch how many centimeters it grows. And you can do that same thing at home. Yours might take a little bit longer depending on how much time and how much sugar and how much yeast you dropped in there, okay? So this is part 1. These are our little mini fermenters. And these things actually, so what's happening is our yeast is gonna eat the sugar, it's gonna leave behind ethanol, a version of an alcohol, and this fuel that's left behind when it's distilled or purified, it can be used for all kinds of things. Like I mentioned, you can use it in cars to power your vehicles. A lot of times ethanol is mixed with gasoline to help make the fuel burn more cleanly. It's even used in high performance vehicles like NASCAR and IndyCar kind of vehicles because it's good for the performance of the car and those fancy engines. But you can also use ethanol to make lots of different kinds of products in industry. One you might have heard of recently is hand sanitizer. Ethanol is a common component in sanitizing products as well, and also some food products that you can ask your parents about later. So certain food products contain ethanol, but those are usually for certain aged individuals. So ask for details about that. So we're gonna keep an eye on this, and maybe this bag is gonna keep getting a little bigger as we talk, and we're gonna hopefully see some bubbles and some things like that forming, okay? So that's part one. Part two, if we're thinking about biomass, one of the common forms of biomass that we talked about in the beginning was trash. And we're getting trashy today, peeps. Trash is something that we all produce. Trash is something that is contributed by every person in all forms of society. And most of the time in the United States, every American of any age, okay, every American produces about 4 pounds of trash per day, which is a wild amount when you think about it. 4 pounds is like maybe a hand weight or a jug of a gallon of water, for example. So if you can imagine taking all of your trash and putting it into a container and weighing it, it might weigh about 4 or 5 pounds. Some of you, it might weigh more, it might weigh less. So this is just a simple activity dealing with trash, dealing with our biomass, dealing with the things that we create every day. And so this is going to help teach you to think carefully about your contribution to landfills. And we're doing this because it's right about the time of Earth Day. Earth Day is later this month, and a lot of times folks are doing conservation activities. So this is a great activity to lean into Earth Day and get you thinking about what you could do to be kinder to the earth around you. And so with this activity, really, really simple. And what you're gonna take here are 2 Ziploc bags, and I'm gonna label each one, and one is gonna say today's trash. And since we're halfway through the day today, maybe what you can do is get this one set up so that you can start it for a full day tomorrow. Or you can go from today at 2:30, for example, till tomorrow at 2:30. The idea is to gather a whole 24 hours worth of data. So one bag is gonna say today's trash on it, okay? So this will be backwards for you, today's trash. And then I'm gonna have another one that says my tokens on it. And in this bag, I'm gonna put various tokens to help me keep track of how much trash I'm generating, okay? So I've also got 2 big garbage bags. You could have a third garbage bag, depends on what your local municipality does, and this might be a good time to ask your parents what your trash collection situation looks like. So the idea, again, is to monitor your own personal trash consumption for the day. So these are gonna be your own personal garbage bags that you can then put into your family's receptacles that you might use, okay? So this trash bag, I would label as trash. These are things that I can't recycle, things that I can't compost. So you would label one of your garbage bags as trash. And that's where you're gonna put anything that you generate during the day that is trash. Okay, and you want to kind of put these in a place where you don't have to carry them around with you all day, but you can put them in a place where nobody else is going to add to them so that you can keep track of just your trash contributions, okay? Then you're going to have another bag, and this one's going to say recycling on it. And these are all the materials that you would generate in the day that you recycle or that you could recycle. And this might require some discussion with your family as well, because some things might be recycled in one city or town that might not be in another city or town. So it might be worth it to check out what all of the numbers are in your on all the plastics, all of what your own municipality takes. And it's really easy. Usually you can just look up your town's website and look up their trash collection information, and they'll tell you what materials you can and cannot recycle. The most common things that you might recycle are paper, cardboard, aluminum, and tin cans, and some plastics. So those are things that we're going to be maybe putting in our recycling bag. And the way this is going to work is you're also going to need 3 different colors or shapes of tokens or candies or coins. In this case, I have a lot of coins that I have not taken to the bank to trade in for real cash yet. So I have some pennies, I have some dimes, and I have some nickels. And my third, I forgot to label, my third bag is going to say compost. And these are all materials that if your city or town composts, or if you have your own personal composter, or you use a garbage disposal to dispose of food waste, you would put food waste down here, okay? So what we're gonna do is and this is a very simple activity, as we move throughout the day, any trash that we generate, we're gonna think about where it goes, whether it's trash, compost, or recycling. And then we're going to put that item in its appropriate bag, okay? And so I have some examples here. I made a grilled cheese for lunch. So this is the cheese container that was left over from the cheese that I finished. And this is a bag that my municipality does not recycle. So I'm gonna put it in my trash bag, okay? And keep track of it as I go throughout the day. And then what I would do is I have determined that I have 3 different tokens or coins, and pennies are going to be my coin for trash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pennies out of my tokens bag, and for every item I put in my trash bag, I'm going to put 1 penny in this bag so that I don't have to carry that bag around all day long. It's just in one spot. And for every item that I generate and put in the trash bag, I would put 1 penny in the today's trash Ziploc, okay? Now, for anything that I recycle, I would put, for example, like this can of seltzer, I would put that in my recycling bag. And then if my dimes are my recycling tokens, I would put those in my recycling bag, okay? Or in my today's trash bag. So I would keep all of my extra tokens, pennies, nickels, dimes. If you're using M&Ms, maybe 3 different colors of M&Ms. You could use poker chips or bingo chips, all kinds of different options here. But you'd restore all of those in here. And then as you generate different kinds of trash throughout the day, you would take 1 piece out and put it in the bag for each type of trash that you create. Then the idea is at the end of the day, you'd take all of your individual bags, take the mass of them by putting them on your bathroom scale or a kitchen scale, and figure out how many pounds of trash you generated of each kind. Did you generate the most trash that can't be recycled? Did you generate more recycling than you did trash? And then what you could do is add up all 3 together and see if you beat the national average, which is 4.4 pounds of trash per person. If you don't beat the average and perhaps you generate more trash, it might be interesting to think about what your behaviors that day might be. So, what kinds of things did you do today that you might not do other days? Was today grocery shopping day? Did you clean out the cabinets? Did you clean out the pantry? Things like that. And you might want to think about what kinds of things you could change about your day-to-day activities. Are you somebody who doesn't really pay attention to recycling in your household? And could you put more things in the recycling bin than the garbage bin? Is it a situation where you do have the garbage disposal, or you have access to composting in your town and you just don't use it? Could you maybe start doing something like that? And this activity, again, is to just get you thinking about how much trash you're using over the course of your day and over the course of a year. And if you think about one day being 4 pounds of trash and multiply that by a week, by a month, by a year, you can start to see that it would really add up. And if you live in a city, for example, where you don't have a lot of free space, where is all of that trash going? What are some things that we might do with it? In a lot of places, in large cities, for example, we'll burn that garbage to generate electricity. If things can't be recycled, some cities don't have the ability to repurpose certain plastics, so we'll burn those for energy too. But other times, it's just sitting somewhere and collecting space and taking up space and off-gassing and leaching its chemicals into the earth. So we want to maybe make sure that we're disposing of them in the best way that we can. There are some things that are difficult to recycle. I saw somebody asked, how do we recycle plastic bags? Plastic bags are things that a lot of municipalities don't recycle. The best option for a lot of places is to check out your retailers like Target, grocery stores, Walmart, even sometimes the convenience stores like gas stations and things. They have plastic bag recycling facilities or receptacles, and as you walk in, you can drop in your plastic bags in those receptacles, and that's really a great way to do that. So if your municipality doesn't collect from your home, it's important to look for other ways in your community that you could recycle all of those things. So great questions so far. Saw a lot of folks in the comments. I saw a lot of people perhaps commenting some inappropriate things. I want to remind you guys that this is something for a large population, and if you're not going to contribute in a positive way, maybe you can opt out that day, or save your comments for somebody who save your commenting for appropriate times. So what we're going to see here, I'm going to go back to my part 1, and then what I'm going to see is that if I take my ruler, my bag has started to grow. It was about 1/8 of an inch before, and it's a little bigger now, just a little bigger. But we're gonna start to see some change in this bag over time. We're gonna start to see some bubbles, and I'm already starting to see some of the bubbles forming in my bag. You can kind of see some of them happening in there. And as we kind of mix up this goo here, we're gonna start to see this bag expand, and the material is gonna start to take up more space as it's eating all of the sugar. So that's our biomass lesson for today. I want to remind everybody that these activities come from within NEED's curriculum. They are also found in Energy Lab for Kids, which you can find at shop.need.org. And if anybody is interested, and parents, if you want to amplify this lesson a little bit, I encourage you to check out a great extension of this activity, more scientific discussion of this through the Department of Energy's Bioengineering Lab. It's called Great Lakes Bioenergy, and they have a fermentation in a bag lesson. And I will share the link to that and share the link to some of NEED's other related materials in the comment section when I repost this video afterwards. The other thing that I want to share with you is if you do make a biomass bag over the next couple of days with your grass clippings and your yeast and your wet material or your sugar, and you take a video of it or take some photo evidence of it, NEED has a video documentation tool on Flipgrid. And if you're familiar with Flipgrid, it's just a cute little video discussion tool where you can upload a post of your results and share what you learned. And we'll post a link to our Flipgrid there. There's 6 or 7 other Flipgrids that you can access with your family. So if you're doing some NEED activities, might be a great thing to do with your students. Okay? Does anybody have any questions today? Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check out our next lesson on Thursday. We're going to be doing some things with chemical reactions. So it'll be a lot of fun, and you'll get to see some more of our NEED friends. Check back with us every Tuesday and every Thursday, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.